Welcome back, everyone, to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing, and it is a great pleasure, and I mean a great pleasure, to welcome in Senator Tomlinson to the program today. And Senator, we thank you greatly for taking your time to join us here on the program today. We, of course, were talking about the issues that the governor brought up in his budget speech last week.
Yep.
What are the chances that he can get this done?
Well, I really don't think there's a great chance for several reasons. One, I don't think the governor or his staff, I just think the governor's been poorly served in this issue. And that is, this is a trust fund. This isn't state money that you can use for anything you want to use. It's a trust fund. And I don't really think that he's going to get a lot of support for this because there's so many flaws in it. And to just throw this money at the state system, I think is ill-served to the state system. We have structural problems that we need to address there. So I think the chances are slim.
Well, you mentioned the idea of the trust fund. Tell the folks exactly what is involved with the money and the trust fund.
Well, it's important to know that this isn't taxpayers' dollars. This is money coming from slot machines. It's a percentage that comes off the slot machines, which is gambling money, so it's not taxpayers' money. And so this money had been rated before, but never to a completely different entity like the state system of higher education. It's gone into agriculture, it's gone into other things that might be related, but it was very bad for the industry to have that money be vulnerable to anything. So we put it in a trust fund and said, if anybody tries to take this, they got to pay back all that was ever taken. And I think what we needed to do for the trust fund is just show the breeders and the horsemen and the people that own these horses, the people that make this big investment, that this money's going to be there. And it's not going to be robbed and taken and used for something else. To give it stability. People need stability. So that's why it was put into a trust fund, to give stability to the people that are making these huge investments, whether it's in horses and farms and the farmers that provide the feed. There needed to be some stability and reliability, and that's what the trust fund did.
Tommy, when this act was originally passed, and I know Governor Rendell signed it right here in the Winter Circle, July of 2004, it was done because other states surrounding Pennsylvania had gotten gaming, and the horse racing business was suffering because of it. Do people even remember that anymore, what the original reason for this was?
Of course not, and of course that's our problem. And as you remember, Delaware Park put slot machines in their racetrack. So a lot of our horses went down there to race for those purses. I mean, you don't blame them, but it did give us the impetus, and we had been working on this for a long time to try to get slot machines here on the racetrack, and that gave us the impetus to go even further and do that. So this was a deal. This was part of the contract, part of the pact we made that, you know, I've lived here my whole life. You know, this track's been here the majority of my life, and before this track was the track at Liberty Bell down in Philadelphia. So we've had a racetrack here, so a lot of the people that work here live here. And they're my neighbors, they're my friends, they're my constituents. So we wanted to make sure that we could preserve this horse racing tradition. So then we eventually got the slot machines. But as part of that, 11% of that went directly back into the Horsemen's Fund for purses and for that, because we knew the slot machines would take some. But we wanted this combination of a racetrack and slot machines and a casino. We liked that synergy, and we wanted to preserve that. So it was very, very important that they get a piece of that. But the public gets the bigger piece. I mean, property tax, there's 35% of this goes to property tax relief or public education, and since '06, that's been over $6 billion. That's a B. That was a B. $6 billion have gone to the public in property tax rebates to public education. So there is a lot of purposes here, that economic development, local share, the state's taking a piece of the table games. So there's a lot of use. I mean, we are actually the greatest state in the union in tax receipts to the state from casinos. And here, the industry that started it, horse racing, which is really a big part of my community here in Bensalem, and people think, oh, the suburbs of Philadelphia, southeastern Pennsylvania. No, we got a viable racetrack here, and my constituents live here and they work here. So we can't take that money away from that.
Well, Senator get out and get to work. I mean, we had you here because that certainly sounds good to us. And knowing that you're on our side is certainly a great relief to us, and we know where you're going to be fighting and where you're going to push your chips.
I think you're going to see a lot more people on your side than we realize or that the governor realizes. And everybody has sympathy for the state system, and everybody wants to help the system. The ironic thing is the governor took $204 million out of trust fund, but he didn't propose any increase in the state system through the taxpayers. Right. So, and that will happen. And I think the governor, once I think he's learned what this is really doing and what the impact is, 20,000 jobs. 20,000 jobs. And you know, a lot of different ethnic groups are in those jobs, and a lot of low-income people are in those jobs. And I mean, when you think of the impact in the agricultural community, you got to think twice about this. So I think that we have a good chance once we pull back the wrapper and open this up. I think the governor will realize that this was not a wise thing.
Senator, again, thank you so much for your time for coming in. Yep.